what trends and drivers do you see having the greatest influence and upside going into 2021 and moving forward in this space? Yeah.
It's astonishing, but it seems like COVID is actually helping drive more of what we would all call the clean or circular or impact economy. I mean, 2020 was crazier than any of us could have ever imagined. At the same time, sustainability, circularity seems to have grown in importance. Why? I'd love participants to type in their text boxes, type in the chat box
Mm,
what they see as the drivers. A few things come to my mind. One of them, it's COVID itself. It heightened the importance that everybody seems to carry on health. Hello, health and sustainability have never been more important. Somehow, that also brought up the looming threat of climate chaos. And
mm,
there appears to be somehow like this constellation of awareness, a bunch of people all at the same time that something must be done. And people and companies and investors have increased their commitments substantially. I mean, it's not subtle. There's now 1,400 companies that have set net zero emissions targets. And more than 100 banks and investors have also set these targets. And so part of what's also driving all of this now, sort of the other side of it, is the need for the expectation for more disclosure. Much
sure.
greater disclosure now, right, on the ESG, you hear environmental, social, and governance. Those metrics are now much more widely used than ever. And so it's bringing people to talk to each other, more conversations, shareholders, stakeholders, leaders globally. Kind of this conversation has really been sparked up quite a bit. A lot of companies set their targets, it's 2050. A 2050 target, unless the company really gets on it right away, is worse than no target. It's like it's
Mm,
this false comfort of feeling like, oh, good, we got rid of our green guilt. Now we can just cruise all the way to 2045.
mm,
No. So the opportunities are really making sure we pick the right targets, right? And working together on how to get there. So
mm,
one of the things on the financial front is that uh, the there's a couple of organizations that have been studying investment trends. The SIF, US SIF is one of them. And they're now pointing to the data that in 2020, their report showed $17.1 trillion, or that's about a third of the 51 trillion in total US assets under professional management that are now involved in sustainable investing or impact investing in some manner. That's a third of the money. That's a lot of money. And so it seems like there's a couple of schools of thought, and I'll highlight a couple. The two main ones on the opportunity front that we have to solve the problems we all face. I see two schools. Um, on the slide you see in front of you, the bottom of that, there's a picture of it's actually the Dalai Lama
mhm.
and Greta Thunberg
Yes.
versus Bill Gates. Very different approaches to solving this problem. I'm
Mm,
not going to get into polarity or either or about it, but there are rather profound differences. The short version, the Dalai Lama, Greta Thunberg, and the scientific community seem to think that planting a lot of trees, harnessing natural forces, is a better plan than inventing more and new technologies. It's getting carbon back in the soil where it belongs, drawing it down out of the atmosphere and putting it into
mm,
living things. That's just biology, that's nature, but made better, made into a business, if in the form of agribusiness or in the form of certain kinds of trees, bamboo. I happen to be wearing bamboo. It's one of the great heroes of carbon sequestration. Sustainable food systems. I mean, we all have to eat, right? So if we could make our food supply, for example, a way of creating carbon sinks, rather than
Hmm.
generating carbon emissions. Second one, waste to value in all of its forms. This is the materials side. Materials recovery, like tires, using biomass to convert that into some form of material. Biochar is one that's been in the marketplace, still a bit of a wild frontier. That's been around for quite a while, and it makes a lot of sense mixed with compost. Bioplastics, dealing with any kind of waste, turning that into an asset. And then the rest is really about electrifying and decarbonizing transportation, renewable energy in all of its forms. We have seen a heck of a lot of value coming from solar, wind, small hydro, geothermal, waste to energy of various kinds. All these renewables have a place and they're rapidly scaling. We're already seeing that working quite well. So that's the beauty of regenerative agriculture. You can actually not just slow down the rate of destruction, you could actually send it in the other direction, draw down enough carbon in addition to greater efficiency, and will actually be able to reduce climate, the net amount of carbon in the air to reduce the temperature, actually reverse climate change. That is the potential if we do it at scale and we get on with it and do it quickly. And then the last example would be anything to do with solid waste and clean water, wastewater treatment, health and sanitation, never been more important. And the opportunities to make decent money doing these things have definitely arrived big time.
What are like some action steps that we can take as a group? So we're bringing in, the policymakers, the regulators, the investors, the experts. I'm wondering from your view, like, what do we need to do to create more momentum?
Partial answer is streamlined. We provide quite streamlined access to funding that most project developers would not normally be able to get. They would not
Yes.
be able to gain access to project finance, but they can through us. It's what we call next generation financing. And so there's a lot of opportunity to partner with others, companies that are either more well established or EPC firms, engineering, procurement, construction firms, general contractors, the suppliers of equipment, and so on.
How do we get the key players in to invest in creating green jobs and calming the fears of the unknown, putting together a plan to mitigate waste while hitting these climate goals? How do we do that?
Yeah,
From
you're
you?
absolutely right. The two important pieces of this, whatever the black box is in the middle that converts the waste, it's always about securing the feedstocks on the one hand, the supply side of the materials coming in. Whoever can secure the feedstocks, whether it's tires or pick something, you've got enough of it to run a plant that converts that. Then you're taking that liability of the accumulated waste off the books, and instead like magic, converting that into an asset base. You've got a business there that hardly anything these days can't be converted. Maybe, okay, radioactive nuclear waste, you can't convert that to much of anything of value, so don't make it in the first place. There are some things we really don't want to make in the first place. They should be phased out, right? And but with things like wastewater treatment or yeah, plastics or tires or anything that generates methane, such as there's renewable natural gas, even at the level of municipal solid waste, it's all mixed together and just, literally landfill. There's ways of getting those calories out, refuse derived fuel, RDF. Take the material you've got, whatever it is or can get, build a business around that, secure that for long enough to set up the business that converts it, and the financing will become available. The offtake side, the source side, and the black box in the middle is a little less important. There's enough proven ones now. We are agnostic about it. There's a lot that work. Just pick one, pick a partner, right, and secure this feedstocks and the offtake, and away you go.